When people imagine Avengers Doomsday, they think about heroes assembling again. The real shock comes from watching legendary characters meet for the first time, misunderstanding each other, testing each other, and finally clashing with full power. And here is the detail nobody talks about. These fights are not random fan service. They are carefully designed to change the entire future of the Marvel Multiverse. And once you see how these battles connect, everything changes. Most fans believe Avengers Doomsday will be about stopping Doctor Doom together, but that assumption is completely wrong. Heroes will fight heroes, mutants will fight Avengers, and every battle comes from fear, confusion, or manipulation, not evil intent. And this matters because these early clashes secretly determine who survives the multiverse collapse, and who gets erased forever. And Marvel has been leaving clues for this direction for a long time now. The first unavoidable collision is Thor versus Doctor Doom, and whether it happens in the opening act or the final stretch remains unknown. But Thor's motivation is crystal clear. He is either fighting for revenge after failing to save worlds he loved, or fighting as the last shield protecting Earth. And that protector role fits perfectly here, because when gods fall and universes shake, Thor always stands first. And this time his enemy is not a monster, but a mind greater than his hammer. This battle works because it is not strength versus strength. It is a born god versus a self-made god. Thor is the only Avenger capable of facing Doom directly, which is why Marvel is preparing an upgraded version of Thor. Rumors mention Rune King, Thor, but that power would be unstoppable. So instead the smarter choice is Odin Force Thor, powerful enough to threaten Doom, yet vulnerable enough to lose. And that balance is what makes this clash dangerous and unpredictable. Here is where everything shifts. Doom does not defeat Thor with raw power. He defeats him with intellect, timing, and deception, using misdirection and strategy to land a decisive blow. And this detail was not accidental. Marvel wants to show that Doom cannot be beaten by strength alone, and by making Thor fall through strategy. The film establishes Doom as a multiversal-level threat. Not just a villain with armor, but a mastermind who studies gods before breaking them. After gods clash, chaos spreads, and that leads to the most unexpected fight in the movie. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man vs. Hugh Jackman's Wolverine! This fight begins purely because of incursion confusion. Wolverine sees Spider-Man as a threat, while Peter tries to stay neutral and understand the situation. But here is the problem. Wolverine never waits for explanations, and Spider-Man has never faced a rage-fueled mutant with adamantium claws before. In the first round, Wolverine dominates. Spider-Man is holding back, trying not to escalate the situation. But the moment the claws come out, everything changes. Because when Spider-Man realizes his restraint will get him killed, he stops pulling punches. And this is the version fans fear. Fast, precise, and relentless. Yet even during chaos, both heroes instinctively protect civilians, showing they are not enemies, just warriors trapped inside a collapsing multiverse. The fight slows, not because one wins, but because understanding finally breaks through. Both heroes realize neither is evil. The real enemy is the universes colliding around them. And this realization matters because it introduces the idea that survival requires sacrifice. Rumors suggest multiple Wolverine variants exist, and Marvel may choose to save the strongest while letting others fall. And this moment emotionally prepares audiences for hard choices that define the rest of the movie. With mutants now involved, attention shifts to Nightcrawler versus Reed Richards, a fight confirmed by the actor himself. And once again, misunderstanding drives the conflict. Reed works on a multiversal device. Nightcrawler believes it is causing reality, tears. And the first exchange favors Nightcrawler, teleportation overwhelms Reed. But here's what nobody talks about. Reed does not panic. He observes patterns, and once he understands movement, the fight is already over. Reed adapts instantly, using one of his greatest inventions to counter teleportation itself, trapping Nightcrawler and ending the fight without brute force. And this moment is critical, because Marvel finally shows Reed Richards as a combat strategist, not just a scientist, and this victory proves intelligence is as lethal as power, setting the theme for Doomsday, where the smartest characters shape the battlefield, and every mistake pushes heroes closer to extinction. Now the movie shifts into a fight that blends pure style with raw technique. Gambit versus Shang-Chi. And this matchup instantly stands out. Gambit charges playing cards with kinetic energy, turning them into explosions, while Shang-Chi uses the 10 rings to redirect Thor's midair. And this detail changes everything, because this is not just strength versus strength, it is precision versus chaos, and the visual creativity here signals Marvel is raising the combat intelligence level in Doomsday. This fight is fast, unpredictable, and deadly. Gambit moves like a trained assassin, throwing charge cards from impossible angles. Shang-Chi counters by manipulating energy trajectories with perfect timing. And fans who've watched Deadpool and Wolverine already know how lethal Gambit can be. But here is the twist. This battle is not about winning. It is about showcasing how mutants fight differently than Avengers, setting the tone for why these two groups struggle to trust each other later. But Gambit's role does not stop there, because Avengers Doomsday places him directly in Doom's path, and Channing Tatum has already confirmed a massive confrontation between Gambit and Dr. Doom, which is a huge signal. Gambit steps forward as the frontline mutant, attempting something no one else dares, overloading Doom's armor with kinetic energy, and this reckless courage proves Gambit is not just stylish, he is willing to die for his team. Here is where reality hits hard. Doom absorbs or deflects Gambit's kinetic attacks, using a mix of advanced technology and dark magic. And this moment is brutal, because it shows even the strongest mutants cannot defeat Doom alone. And this detail was intentional. Marvel wants audiences to understand Doom is above individual heroes. And this loss becomes the emotional spark that forces mutants and Avengers to finally consider unity. Because isolation now means extinction. Looking at the fight list, a pattern becomes obvious. Almost every major clash is X-Men versus Avengers. Not because they hate each other, but because misunderstanding dominates the battlefield. Fear replaces communication, and Doom benefits from every second of division. And this matters because Marvel is rebuilding the classic Civil War concept on a multiversal scale, where heroes fight heroes while the real enemy quietly gains control of reality itself. This growing chaos directly impacts Bob Reynolds, a man who cannot become Sentry by choice, only by trauma. And Marvel makes this painfully clear. When things go wrong, Bob does not rise as a hero, he collapses into something far worse. And that transformation is Void. And once Void appears, the power scale of the movie changes completely, because now the battlefield includes a force capable of destroying entire teams without effort. When Bob becomes Void, the X-Men are instantly overwhelmed. Speed, strength, healing, none of it matters. And this is where fear takes over the narrative. Void is not evil in the traditional sense. He is uncontrolled trauma manifested as power. And that is why physical attacks fail, because you cannot punch pain into submission. And Marvel intentionally pushes the story into psychological territory to prepare audiences for the most unusual fight in the movie. Only one mutant can confront Void without weapons. Professor Charles Xavier, and his entrance is quiet but terrifying, because this battle does not take place in the physical world. It happens inside the mind. And here is what nobody expects. Professor X is not defensive. A is dominant, controlling the mental landscape completely, proving that the most powerful battlefield in Doomsday is not space or time, but the human psyche itself. Inside Void's mindscape, Charles dismantles fear memory by memory. And this is not a fight of punches or beams. It is therapy weaponized into combat. And this changes everything, because instead of killing Void, Charles saves Bob, pulling the light back into him. And this act does what no Avenger could do. It creates the true Sentry, not a monster, but a balanced god capable of choosing the right side. When Bob finally becomes Sentry, the entire power hierarchy shifts. And Marvel makes sure the audience understands this is a turning point. Sentry is not just strong, he is stable, controlled, and aware of the damage Void caused. And this moment answers the loop opened earlier. Unity only comes after destruction. And now with Sentry reborn, the heroes finally gain a weapon powerful enough to challenge Doom's multiversal ambition. As if the battlefield was not emotionally charged enough, Avengers Doomsday introduces a deeply personal conflict. Monica Rambeau versus Carol Danvers. And this fight hits differently, because last time we saw them, they were allies, both wielding light-based powers. But here is the twist. This clash is not born from hatred. It is born from manipulation. And Dr. Doom understands that breaking trust is far more effective than breaking bones. This battle becomes a visual spectacle of energy and speed. Carol uses raw cosmic force-firing overwhelming blasts, while Monica shifts into her photon form, dodging, absorbing, and redirecting light itself. And this detail changes everything, because Monica does not just evade Carol's power, she learns from it mid-fight. And that adaptive ability turns this into a chess match of energy control rather than a simple brawl between superpowered allies. What makes this fight dangerous is not the power level, it is the emotional weight behind every move. Monica is not fighting an enemy. She is fighting someone she once trusted. And Carol is unaware she is being manipulated. And that imbalance fuels the conflict. Because hesitation exists on one side and brute certainty on the other. And Marvel uses this moment to show how Doom weaponizes emotion to weaken even the strongest heroes. There is also a haunting possibility woven into this fight. Monica may be forced to face Maria Rambeau, another Captain Marvel variant. And if that happens, the psychological impact could be devastating. Because now Monica is not just fighting power. She is confronting family memory and legacy. And this is exactly the kind of cruel scenario Doom engineers, forcing heroes to break internally before they ever break physically. From emotional conflict, the movie shifts into pure ideology. Cyclops versus Captain America. And this fight is not about who hits harder. It is about leadership. Scott Summers leads mutants through survival logic, while Captain America represents unity and restraint. And when these two collide, it symbolizes the larger war between mutants and Avengers. And once again, misunderstanding pushes them into conflict instead of cooperation. Marvel adds a smart twist here. Cyclops does not face one Captain America. He faces two. Steve Rogers and Sam Wilson fight together, combining experience and mobility. Sam uses vibranium wings to counter optic blasts, while Steve closes distance with shield tactics. And this coordination matters, because it shows Avengers rely on teamwork over raw power, forcing Cyclops to adapt rather than overwhelm. This battle does not last long, and that is intentional. Marvel is not interested in declaring a winner here. The point is symbolism, leaders clashing because they believe different paths ensure survival. And this fight plants the seed that neither side is completely right or wrong. And that realization quietly prepares both groups for the alliance that becomes unavoidable once Doom's true strength is revealed. After individual fights fail, desperation takes over. Captain America Cyclops and Reed Richards unite against Dr. Doom. And this moment feels earned, because pride has been stripped away. Reed analyzes Doom's armor, searching for flaws. Cyclops prepares precise optic strikes, and Captain America keeps Doom engaged up close. And this coordinated attack marks the first real attempt to fight Doom intelligently rather than emotionally. For the first time, Doom is hurt. Cracks form in his armor, and this moment sends shockwaves through every hero watching, because it proves Doom is not untouchable, and this detail was not accidental. Marvel needed to show that combined effort matters, and that hope still exists. But this small victory comes with a warning. Hurting Doom only forces him to evolve faster than anyone expected. That single crack changes everything. Heroes now believe Doom can be defeated, but here is the danger. Doom thrives under pressure, and this near defeat pushes him toward a larger plan, one that requires a god on his level to challenge him. And this moment quietly opens the door for the final escalation, because when intellect meets resistance, Doom does not retreat, he escalates beyond comprehension. When Doom realizes raw force and strategy are no longer enough, the story escalates to a god-level confrontation. God Loki versus Dr. Doom. And this is where Avengers Doomsday becomes something entirely different. Because Loki is no longer a trickster seeking approval, he's the custodian of stories and this detail changes everything. Because Doom is about to face an enemy who does not fight with weapons, but with narrative itself. God Loki arrives with powers that bend reality through storytelling, illusion, and perception. He does not attack Doom directly. Instead, he destabilizes him, forcing Doom to relive fears, memories, and possible futures. And this moment is critical, because it gives the audience a deeper look into Doom's motivations, and suddenly the villain becomes understandable. And Marvel intentionally creates a moral divide, forcing fans to question whether Doom is wrong or simply inevitable. This battle is not explosive, it is psychological. Doom strikes through logic and resistance. Loki counters with deception and layered realities, and this detail was not accidental. Marvel wants to show Doom cannot be beaten through confusion alone, and although Loki shakes him, Doom does not fall, proving that intellect combined with will is nearly unbreakable. And this moment quietly teaches the audience that Doom's defeat requires more than gods and tricks. Instead of winning, Loki does something more dangerous. He plans ahead, thinking 10 moves beyond the present. And this is where the larger picture becomes clear. Loki is not trying to stop Doom now. He is preparing the battlefield for secret wars. And this revelation closes the narrative loop opened at the start. Because Avengers Doomsday was never about victory. It was about position in every piece exactly where it needs to be. With gods clashing in the background, the most grounded fight becomes one of the most important. Yelena versus Mystique, a battle of deception, stealth, and survival. Mystique controls the fight with shape-shifting and misdirection, while Yelena relies on instinct and training. And although Yelena fights smart, this battle is designed to end painfully, because its outcome triggers consequences far greater than anyone expects. Yelena's loss becomes the emotional catalyst that breaks Bob Reynolds completely. And this is the hidden detail most viewers will miss. Void is not born from fear alone. He is born from guilt and failure. And this moment connects every storyline together, proving that even small battles shape the fate of gods. And once Bob collapses again, the audience realizes how fragile the balance truly is. However, Marvel does not portray Mystique as honest. Subtle hints show Yelena nearly outthinking her through traps and timing. And this matters because it reinforces the theme of Doomsday. Victory is never guaranteed. It is always earned or stolen. And even in loss, heroes leave scars on the battlefield that influence what comes next. Then comes the most unpredictable fight of all. Mr. Fantastic vs. Deadpool, a clash that defies logic, tone, and expectation. Reed fights with calculation while Deadpool breaks every rule of combat and storytelling, and Marvel intentionally leaves this fight open-ended. Because its purpose is not resolution, it is disruption, reminding the audience that chaos still exists even among the smartest plans. Looking back at every fight, a pattern becomes undeniable. Avengers Doomsday is not about heroes winning. It is about heroes learning. Every clash strips ego, exposes weakness, and forces growth, and this changes how the audience understands the movie. Because the real victory is not defeating Doom. It is surviving long enough to face what comes next. And that is the final truth. Avengers Doomsday is the storm before Secret Wars. Every fight, every loss, and every alliance is positioning the board for the endgame. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. So now the question is yours. Which fight shocked you the most? Which theory changed your perspective? And if this made you see Marvel differently, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay ready, because the real war is just beginning.